Hello and welcome back to the Rekt Capital channel, and welcome to today's video market update. We're going to be focusing on Bitcoin and its retrace. Is this just a dipping opportunity, or are we in for a deeper retrace than initially thought? I hope you're having a fantastic day today, and let's dive right into the update. And I'm going to preface my point of where we could bottom out on this retrace with my article from early July 2020, Bitcoin after the halving, everything you need to know. When we think about the halving, we have to understand that most of its exponential gains come after the halving, and the Bitcoin halving has historically figured as a very important catalyst for a new bull market. And we've seen this after every single halving. And of course, guys, remember, this article was written at the beginning of July. So this was before we even got that breakout from the reaccumulation range of 8,700 to 9,700, a range that many people thought was distribution. So those are the sort of things we don't remember now that time has passed. We don't remember that fear. We don't remember the fact that many people are panicking about a potential distribution scenario. We don't remember that psychology now with hindsight, because now in hindsight it feels like it was really understandable and really obvious that it would be a reaccumulation range, because that's what happens in the past. That's what happened after halving 1, and that's what happened after halving 2. So it should have happened after halving 3, and it did. But at the time, people thought that history wouldn't repeat itself like it did. So just to give you a brief description of what I spoke about in this article, after halving 1, we tend to see weeks of consolidation within a reaccumulation range before we see a new uptrend. And of course, once we begin that new trend, we actually see pullbacks into the old range to test the range high as a new support before springboarding into that new uptrend. So first of all, post-halving consolidation is absolutely natural. That's a very key tendency. Afterwards, once we break out from this consolidation range, we begin a new trend, but not until we first have to successfully retest this range high as a new support. So that happened after halving 1. Halving 2 was a little bit more complex, so that we saw a few weeks of retracement, but this is where an accumulation range formed. For a few weeks, a breakout forming a new reaccumulation range right over here. So this was an accumulation range at the lows after a retrace, and then a reaccumulation range at highs after that initial breakout, followed by another breakout to a new trend. But remember, guys, that every time we break out from a range, we have to bear in mind that we see a successful retest attempt. And we've seen this a few times after halving 2. We saw the first retest attempt of the previous range. So accumulation over here, breakout, and then weeks of reaccumulation range, but now we're actually seeing a retest of that old range. And then once we break out from the reaccumulation range, we see yet another successful retest attempt before enjoying the new trend. So history is showing that reaccumulation ranges are normal, and once we see a breakout from this range after the halving, we see successful pullbacks into a retest attempt before continuing the uptrend later on. So going back to early July, you can see that this was the price action. This was the 7-week range. And of course, later on actually occurred that we broke out from this reaccumulation range on the 10th week. So the 10th week in this range after the halving. So 3 weeks after this article, we actually saw the breakout in the reaccumulation range. But essentially speaking, this was the range we were consolidating in for 7 weeks at the time in early July. And essentially, if we just scroll back, if we just scroll down to some of the key insights, and of course, guys, you can read this article at any time. Just click in the link in the description down below to check out this article to read in a bit more detail. I'm just giving you the high level points here. And key insight number 3, every time Bitcoin has broken out from its post-halving consolidation period, we'd always see a retrace towards the old accumulation range. And that's essentially what I've been talking to you guys about today. Post-halving 1, post-halving 2, we've always seen a breakout, pullback into the range high of that old reaccumulation range before rallying towards the upside into a new bull trend. So This tendency essentially for price post-halving 3 means that first Bitcoin would need to break out past its range high of 9,700 to confirm that this is a consolidation period rather than a distribution period that people were worrying about a few months back. So in fact, we've actually seen that happen already, right? With the benefit of hindsight, we can see that, wow, this indeed did happen. This was definitely a reaccumulation range. And in the weeks after this breakout, meaning now really, because we're actually seeing this retrace right now, in the weeks after this breakout, price would need to retrace towards 9,700, which is the range high of that previous reaccumulation range, so as to turn it into a new level of buy side pressure before beginning a new uptrend. So let's dive into today's chart. There we have it. Here's the accumulation range, or at least the reaccumulation range. At those highs, 10 weeks of consolidation followed by a breakout to new highs, and now we're actually seeing the retrace. So is this a familiar scenario to what we had after halving 1 and after halving 2? We're now seeing the post-halving breakout from the reaccumulation range, and price theoretically could retrace all the way back towards the top of this range high just to claim it as a new support before springboarding into a new bull market. So that means that Bitcoin can still retrace around 15% more while still maintaining its macro bullish stance. And in fact, it could still actually retrace towards 9,000 because 9,000 is the level where we have that multi-year downtrending resistance that Bitcoin broke out from several weeks back. So remember, history is already repeating itself. It has repeated itself with this breakout. So Bitcoin doesn't have to necessarily retrace towards the 9,700 region. But if it does, Bitcoin would be repeating its recurring historical price tendencies after each halving. And that would be history repeating itself. So let's see how this retrace unfolds. We can, of course, see a much shallower retrace, but history is suggesting to us that this would be the region that Bitcoin needs to retest before reversing towards the upside to continue its bull trend. Having said that, thanks so much for watching today. Please consider dropping a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course subscribe for more videos like this in the future. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak soon.